Thank you again for joining us on one of these webinars. Today, we're going to be talking about tracking graduate outcomes with actionable data. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in here in the little nice Q&A tab at the bottom of this Zoom meeting. Yeah, whatever questions you have, we'll be more than happy to answer either in the chat, or we'll find some time at the end to go through some of the ones that have come up and are the most relevant, etc. My name is Leo. I'm part of the university partnerships team here at Handshake. I was employee number 5, so it's been really quite exciting watching the company's rise over the last 18 months or so, and how we've expanded into the UK and Ireland. Mike, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike or Michael. I head up the partnerships team here in the UK. Also, just want to add, since this is a webinar, that I used to be a secondary maths teacher. And so very excited to hopefully get lots of questions from the class today. I told Leo before we began today that really want to keep this as conversational and informal as possible. So I put a little note into the chat that I hope to see you there today with lots of questions. Please feel free to bring those our way. But yeah, really looking forward to digging in today.
Fantastic. All right, so those of you who aren't as familiar with Handshake, we're currently trusted by over 1,400 universities in both America and the UK. We currently partner with 21 universities in the UK and are hoping to double this by the end of this year. Now, what separates Handshake from the rest and what makes us unique? And that is the fact that we are a network model. One of the main challenges that our founders met when they were looking into improving kind of the efficiencies of the career service system model was that for universities, it could be very difficult looking for new employers to work with, reaching out, finding more relevant employers. And as a result, and well, actually more on the flip side of that as well, the employers were facing those same challenges. They were, because of the time and resources that they had, not everyone is PwC in terms of what they have access to. They were only able to reach out to a couple of universities. Normally there was some bias in there based on where the CEO had went to. And they thought, how can we remove those barriers and make it that when a student logs into their platform, they see so many more diverse and relevant job opportunities, and therefore a far more engaging kind of platform for that student. So therefore they're not having to look elsewhere like the Googles, etc. So kind of keep that career service at the heart of things and make it a really compelling experience for those students. Therefore, as you can see on the right-hand side, the Handshake network, the Handshake model was born. From there, an employer can log into Handshake, and from there, at the click of the button, they can connect with any university that we are currently partnered with. So trying to make this really easy as possible to create more relationships between the employers and the university. Now, a fantastic example of where this has come to life would be University of Hertfordshire. Before they joined Handshake, JP Morgan and Chase had never recruited students from their university. But given that they were able to do so at the click of a button and they were able to develop this relationship, last year they were 2 students from University of Hertfordshire have gone on and graduated and are now working for JP Morgan Chase, which they're really excited about. And it's a great example of how we're trying to bring big recruiters to your door and make it far easier for you to facilitate those connections. On the flip side of that as well, we're also helping you empower SMEs, those teams that are very budget constrained. They don't have the same brand profile as some of the big recruiters that I've got here on the left. With your help, they're able to help cut through the noise and be able to get through to the candidates that they want to recruit. So therefore, they have an equal fighting chance of making sure that they're getting access to the best talent. And equally, those students are becoming more aware of the fantastic opportunities that are available at such employers. We like to think of that kind of as phase 1. And the phase 2, and I think this, when I think about this, from my experience of when I was actually looking for employment post-university, is there are so many fantastic websites out there, but a lot of them have restrictions, especially in terms of like LinkedIn. In order to access full LinkedIn, for example, you have to pay a subscription. And therefore, I wasn't able to follow up with an interviewer that I'd just spoken with. And I felt that this was a massive opportunity missed, as I really wanted to make sure I gave the best impression. Similar to Glassdoor, although fantastic if you're further down the line and you've got experience that you can actually use and contribute to the site in order to access more of the reviews. This is fantastic, but someone that had only worked really behind a bar in a pub, I wasn't really able to see the best of that. So we tried to take all of these great tools and put them into a place where it's completely free to use and a real sense of community with all the different students, with all the different recruiters using the platform, where they can direct message each other, even book in for a 15-minute coffee chat if they want to find out a little bit more information about that company and get a real feeling. So therefore, Handshake is a network for students without a network, and it gives them that opportunity to really open their eyes as they start to progress through the university, their university career, and find out what's out there, so they have a really good idea of what it is that they would be best suited to and all the different companies out there that they could go on and work for. And that kind of brings that all together on, like I said. But we're just not more than that. We have so many other different tools that although a couple of our webinars have already spoken about, we will be talking about some others, such as engaging alumni, how you can see all the recruiters that went to your university and how you can then build relationships with them so they can come back and either post jobs or, you know, come along to workshops, etc. And you'll be able to see all of those. That's happening on Thursday. And also we'll be looking at how you can also implement Handshake. But it's just worth pointing out as well, we're running you can run virtual career fairs through the system. Careers Journeys is where obviously you can make your award scheme, or in some cases a module for first-year students, as well as kind of like the you know, internships and placement management, where you can have complete configurability in what you want to create and be able to manage those within the platform without having to use Excel spreadsheets, etc. So, talking about tracking graduate outcomes, from a lot of the conversations that we've had, these seem to be the main 4 themes that keep popping up. One is to identify that, you know, there's this difficult to identify the students who aren't engaged with their services and take timely action to help. The second is the ability to track and help students who haven't yet found employment before they move on from university, and they move on from university and we've lost them and they've fallen through the cracks. The third one is this, well, more of a demand to report upwards more frequently on total department activity and figures. This can be sometimes quite challenging as they're having to pull loads of data from different tools, etc. And they want a really quick and easy way of which they can do this, so they can actually concentrate on their priorities and the things that matter. So just want to pause there and just quickly ask, you know, if you could put in the chat, which of these are resonate with you? If not, if they don't, is there anything else that is more top of mind when we're talking about these themes? We'd just love to quickly pause here and just kind of hear some feedback on whether any of these are, yeah, striking a nerve or are similar to some of the challenges that you're facing. So
this is what teachers call wait time.
Yeah,
pause.
And we can wait. No. Yeah. Well, Dr. R, you've left me hanging here, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that in fact all of them fantastic, Gary. Thank you so much for saving me there, and you too, Daniel. All part of the fun with our webinars, etc. But yeah, it's a really good idea, and obviously what we're going to be doing in this webinar is we're going to be actually starting to really dig into those and see how we can help support you and your teams. Easy access, all the data flowing through your system, as well as accessing early representative and actionable data around student and graduate outcomes at any stage of the university 3 years, whether that's graduation or maybe second year, etc. So you can get actionable data straight away and be able to engage with those students before they leave university, etc. And again, how we schedule reports and connect into tools such as Power BI. So yeah, we're going to really look at these, dig into these 3 themes. And on that, I'm going to pass over to Mike, who's going to open up the platform and talk you through some of the features that will be able to help with that.
Thanks, Leo. And thanks for a couple of those comments in the chat. That's really helpful. So what I'll do today is try to talk through every aspect of how Handshake thinks about trying to empower you with this data. I'm going to talk through the platform a lot, and I just want to double down on the fact that I would love to see comments in the chat, would love to get feedback on where you have questions as I'm presenting, as I'm going through some of this some of these workflow tools and things in the platform. So what we're looking at here is a student seeing Handshake. And I thought, you know, as a company, our motto and kind of our core value is students first. So let's start where students do. Really, the point of Handshake, if you really boil it down on the student side, is always going to be to create that inviting, intuitive experience. So that's why students kind of have this scrollable front page where they can kind of just come and see and lean back, let Handshake come to them a little bit with maybe what's most relevant. But right at the top here, notice there are pretty prominent calls to action for what students need to see first. If you have a graduate outcome survey that you've created for your students, it's going to pop right here with a call to action for me as a student if it's if I'm someone who's supposed to complete it. So just wanted to point that out, that we try to make this incredibly easy, whether it's on mobile or whether it's on desktop. We do have that full native mobile app for students as well. But before I dig into specifically the graduate outcomes survey tool, I actually wanted to broaden the aperture a little bit and talk about how we think about this data. Because what we try to do in Handshake is always have passive workflows that are helping you gather information. A really good example of this is actually the student profile in Handshake. Students can upload a CV or manually add information here to a profile to let you know what they're doing, where they've gotten an opportunity, and all of this becomes reportable data immediately. So if one of your graduates gets a summer internship right as they leave university, and this is updated on their profile because they upload a CV as part of an application, it comes here. Now it's reportable data for you. Similarly, if I go to my career center and I'm engaging in a placements program or maybe a postgraduate program where I'm reporting experiential learning to my institution, when I complete this survey, when I complete that form to talk about working with this nonprofit, this data automatically goes to my profile. Really, the vision here is that we can have multiple ways that data is passively coming to you that you can then report on to know where your students are going. This is even true if you're a student and you're just kind of looking at different opportunities that are out there. If I look at one of these opportunities and see maybe reviews that other people have left on what it's like to work for a given company, these likewise become records that we can use to provide you with more data showing, oh, it looks like one of your alumni or one of your students found this opportunity. You can always report on these in our data tool, and they're there to help you tell that story from multiple different source points. Just wanted to bring that to life for a second, because the idea of we only can get information about where students and alumni are going from a survey is really anachronistic, and we need to have multiple ways that we're pulling this data together. And I'm just going to pause there for 1 second to see if anyone has questions or thoughts about that, or wants to dig into that. I'll be incredibly upset if no one does, but I will move on with my life. Glad we can help you consider it, Gary. Yeah, I think the vision here is really like as many different avenues as we can create for a network to passively bring data to you. That's how we're going to be able to tell that more holistic story of where an entire graduate cohort is ending up. That being said, we do have to do a lot of that work manually, because what we want to do is be able to support students during that final year and make sure that no one's falling through the cracks. A big way we think about doing that is with a first destination tool. So what I'm doing here is just showing you what this looks like for a student. I might encounter this survey tool through an email from my careers team. I might see it on a tablet that's at an on-campus event. There might be somebody who's pushing this to me with a pop notification through the mobile app. The goal is there's a lot of different ways to get this in front of students. We can help them confirm their information, and then they can just start this survey. As I go through and report to my institution, what am I doing after graduation? Notice there's going to be a little bit of interactivity here. The goal is not just to show people pretty blue graphs, though, to be honest, who doesn't love a good blue graph? It's really just, we know that if we provide a little bit of a more interactive experience, students are way more likely to actually complete the survey. So we're going to keep this very simple. We're going to keep it very intuitive for students. That's core to how we have to approach building this tool. If students don't like what they're seeing and it's not easy for them to just do on their phone on the way to class, they're going to ignore it every time. We also make it possible for you to manually input data on their behalf. And as we'll see, you can fully customize this survey so that you can have all the nuanced data points that you might need. Long story short, we make it very simple for students during final year, after graduation. It's really flexible and up to you. Make it easy to have this built-in tool for them to report all of this information to you. And I want to flip now and stop viewing it as a student for a little bit and actually go over to the careers professional side of the platform to show you what do some of these tools look like from an administrator's viewpoint. And I'll dig in first to that first destination survey tool and really talk through kind of what it means to use a tool like this to empower your work. So built into Handshake, and it's worth mentioning that we never have any modular or a la carte pricing, no modular costs here. So this is a tool that's included along with everything else in the platform. I like to say we have a very lazy accounting team. We keep it pretty simple. Oh, and I see a question in the chat. Definitely get the reward. Phil, you ask a question, you get an immediate answer. Love it. Average level of engagement we see with the first destinations tool. Great question. I will say I don't like to give an average or even a median number because that does vary institution to institution, depending upon a lot of factors. You know, how much institutional buy-in do you have with other offices to help make this mandatory? Are there other workflows you have in place, et cetera? That being said, we've done a pretty long-term study with, I think, about 1,000 of our 1,400 partners. And we showed that given their previous tool, once they switched to Handshake, on average, they saw about a 20% increase in completion rates of the tool. I will say, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Handshake just has really great engagement rates overall. It's very normal for us to see total engagement across a student population above 50, 60, even 70%. Among final year students, much higher. Even today, a lot of our partners in the UK who've been on the platform for more than a year, they're seeing 30, 40% of their alumni that retain access to the platform still logging in and using the tool. So really, the way we get the better engagement, Phil, is just by getting better engagement, period. If students like a tool, they're more likely to respond to the survey when you ask them to complete it. Sorry for the siren outside, if you can hear that. It's a pretty exciting place to be in central London. Does that answer your question, Phil? Hope it does. So this is the tool from the admin perspective. And really what you have here is a really in-depth survey tool that we've created to allow you to have potentially different reporting cohorts if you need to, creating different email timelines that you can then customize so that there can be a built-in drip campaign of different messages that are going out to a given cohort. So you can really get incredibly nuanced here. You can also create all your own custom questions using skip logic to really make sure that you're getting just the right responses to the right questions from the right students. And again, you can customize this entire timeline. We also have best in class kind of emails that are already pre-built that we know based on lots of data and experience are the ones that get the highest response rates. So really think of this as a set it and forget it tool that you can use for one semester, multiple semesters, to just continually gather that data from students on, have you found an outcome? What is it? And maybe most importantly, if you haven't found an outcome, let's talk about that. So here's where you have kind of your main homepage for looking at the current state of what's going on with your students. Our vision for this tool, again, very exciting place to be with the siren, sorry about that. Our vision for this tool is that you should be able to use this throughout final year to see exactly which of your students have found an outcome they're excited about and who's still looking. And not just who's still looking, but also now I can do something about it. So core to this is, for example, being able to come look at this entire list and quickly view just the group who say, I'm still looking, for example, and then quickly reach out to them. From here, you can send an entirely customizable email their way. You can add in whatever you need to. One really popular one that I know a lot of our partners do today is they build in a button that just says, schedule an appointment with us. You can have it go right to the new appointment link. And now we can have a custom message that just invites those students to say, hey, it looks like you're still looking for an option, still trying to find that outcome. Let's chat about it. Our office is here to help. There's no point in having data if you can't immediately make it actionable and not just even tell a story with it, but use it to accomplish a goal of moving the needle. This is a great question. Asked in the chat, how many surveys in final year would you suggest? I would suggest actually that we have one survey that's continually rolling for the entirety of your final year, or at least I would say the second half of final year. It's pretty common practice across our cohort of partners to start this survey process 6 months before graduation. And you can really hopefully use it to start to winnow down to just what is the group of students who haven't found that outcome yet. I don't think we need to have a huge multitude of different surveys. What we should be able to do is create one survey that has different question strands for different courses or for different cohorts. And maybe the option to resend to students maybe once if they've already filled it out, just to check, hey, graduation's around the corner or it just happened. Is this outcome that you reported to us 4 months ago, is that still the right one? And again, most of those tools can be automated in this first destination survey. It really is a pretty deep workflow tool for that type of outcomes emailing. The goal is that it should be omnipresent without being spammy. The other aspect of it, though, is actually not just the email tools themselves, but also the data that comes with them. So we do have a full suite of reporting tools built into Handshake, which I'll dig into a little bit, but not fully focusing on that insights tool today. But what we've done is we've built this homepage for you to look at maybe just one cohort or longitudinally all time. What outcomes data do you have and what's the story it tells? We're actually really excited right now. We're working with some of our partners in the UK to even get the graduate outcomes data they have from the official 15-month survey and pull that into Handshake so that it can also be made actionable here. Some examples of what this data can look like. If we come here and look, for example, and apologies for the Americanisms, I have both an American accent and an American demo account. Do what we have to. I can come here and see like a longitudinal look at all of the salary data that we've been able to collect. What does compensation look like for my graduates? Let's break that down maybe by college or education level. Let's break that down if we can by student demographics. I don't have any of that data in my fake demo account here, but you can imagine the idea being that we should really be able to see all this information and understand what are the population differences on our university. What is the effect they have on outcomes and pay for our students today? We can also use the same data to look at outcomes across industry. Really, we can slice this data all sorts of different ways. And these are just the pre-built reports that we've created for you, right? All of this is available in this same data tool, and you can build all of these visualizations and all of this nuance yourself. You don't want to build it yourself? Great. That's why we have a really well-staffed support and success team to help you do all this and to help create what you need here. Again, running those reports, getting that help from our team, that never costs a single penny. That's all included with Handshake. We also try to take this a little bit deeper and help you do some research on what is the impact directly that your careers office has on outcomes. So because all of the data tools around attendance to appointments, events, careers fairs, et cetera, can all be brought into one place, we can start to see what is the difference in positive outcome if students have or have not ever attended an appointment or come to a career fair. The idea being we should really be able to help you tell that story, even as it relates to salary, on what is the impact that I have on my students? What does my careers team do that no one else can do to bring value at this university? We think this is a really exciting kind of new phase of analytics at Handshake, frankly, is helping all of our partners tell this story of success and being able to use data to really be a foundation of that narrative. I've been speechifying for a few minutes here about this tool. I'm pretty excited about it. I like it, but I also like questions a lot. So I'm just going to pause there for 1 second and see if there are any reactions or questions either about this data tool and kind of this, this insights platform here, or are there other questions about the survey tool and kind of the methodology around grabbing graduate outcomes data overall? Yeah, we have a shy group today. Sad. What are you gonna do?
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, it's great. So a couple other pieces that I do want to mention as we think about gathering this data is really okay. So we have, we have this great first destination survey tool. We've gathered this information. We're starting to process it, but really, where does it all go, and how do I get it where I need it to go after that? So a couple pieces to note. If we're looking at a student record in Handshake, or if you're ever looking at an employer record in Handshake, we've built in some great analytics tools that I just wanted to show you that really help bring this outcomes data to life and embed it throughout your experience. So one nice piece here is that when you come to look at an employer in Handshake, you can immediately see what is their activity in terms of engagement with your campus, with other students, but also how many of your students have they hired in the past. And this is always available to you so that as you're working with employers, you can see actively, have they hired our students? Have my students reported that they've gone to work here? This is also a phenomenal way to add employers to a collection, which is our way of allowing you to curate the experience for your students even further. Say, oh, I see that this employer has hired 10 students from the same course in the last 2 years. Well, I should really add this employer to my great for this specific course collection in the system. And then I can forward that to my students in an email so they know to go explore this cohort of employers.
Mike, you have a question?
I do have a question. Jody, fantastic one. Love this. Yes, so the insights tool, it takes data from the first destination survey, but then it really longitudinally links it across the entire system. So just to bring that to life for 1 second, you beat me to the punch, but if we go to the analytics tool, I'll just show you some of the dashboards here that kind of helps bring to life the scope of what we can report on here, Jody. In the system, you have data from really every aspect of Handshake, whether that's student engagement, employer activities and messaging between the two, attendance to events, graduation survey outcomes, all of that comes here. And then it can be reported on, and it can be reported on across silo. So if you really like a VLOOKUP, Jody, go for it. But Handshake is going to have these pretty broad data tables so that you don't necessarily have to do that. It's quite easy, for example, to pull data showing students graduate first destination survey outcome, along with count of total appointments, count of total events they've attended, and kind of see that comparison. Yeah, I'll show you a bit of what I mean here in a second. But yeah, the day that we created some of those tools and changed our reporting tables was a pretty happy day. So let me just give a brief example here of a report that you could create with this data and what you could do with it. So I favorited one this morning. I'll come in here and show it to you, and maybe we can do some editing on the fly just for fun. This is specifically reported in a table that is just all of the graduate outcomes data. So every survey we've ever done, I just have a longitudinal report here showing over time, where have all my students said they're going? What college were they in? What their job function, their employer industry, kind of what was their start date, and we can go from there. Pretty simple, pretty easy. And if you need this data to live outside of Handshake, then we can create this report very, very simply, and then we can actually automate the export of this report, and we can schedule it to go to whatever endpoint you need. So if you need this to hit some other university system every night and be automatically consumed by that database so that it now lives in your Power BI or Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce, we have that functionality built in right here. Additionally, and Jody, this is where things get really, really fun, we can actually merge these data fields together and pull data from the other different aspects of the Handshake system. So if you wanted to look at how does the data over here in my first destination survey relate to other aspects of student engagement, we can dig in and do that, which I think is really one of the exciting tools that we can use this data system to accomplish. This is a little bit advanced stuff, which again is why we have a team at Handshake that lovingly like to call themselves the eggheads. I hope I'm not giving away any secrets by saying that, but the folks who work on our support and success team really specialize in helping you figure out, well, if here's where you want to go with your reporting and your data storytelling, cool, let's help you get there. Danielle, this is a fantastic question. Can you report on whether a student is underemployed? They might consider themselves employed, but we want to continue to support them, graduate outcome. I actually think that's a perfect opportunity to ask, well, let me ask you this. Daniel, is that something where you want to create that definition yourself based on certain job titles or pay rates, or would you want that to be something that students self-articulate as part of telling you about their outcome? Both are possible, because of course you can gather, in fact, the survey automatically gathers that pay information, and it gathers title, it gathers information about the employer. So you could probably create your own classifications if you wanted to do that on your own. That being said, like I mentioned earlier, you create all of your own custom questions that you can also attach to that outcome survey. I think foundationally best practices that everyone should create the question, do you feel like this role is one where you self-actualized, et cetera? So it's really possible to, I think, approach that in two different ways. We can use the traditional kind of mandatory underemployed definitions we might have to, but we can also ask students to really understand. I'll say this about myself. My first role out of university was like I said, teaching what we call high school maths in the United States. It was certainly a role that was paying about 1/5 of what most of my friends were making. But for me, it was exactly what I wanted to do and exactly where I wanted to be. So I would have called myself fully employed, despite what maybe some standardized definitions might have said. So Daniel, either or, we can help you get there. I know a lot of institutions that are asking questions like that today. One that we've done some really comprehensive webinars with about this in the United States is Johns Hopkins. So I can follow up with you and get you some more information on that if you're curious. Like I said, this data tool is a really, really complex and deep one. So I'm not going to dive too much farther into this, but suffice to say, the last piece that I'll show is that you can come here and create all of your own reports from scratch. And if we're looking at student data in the system, we can really see just the length and breadth of different fields that you're able to use to create these reports about students, whether it's their interests that they've declared to you throughout their use of Handshake, their first destination responses, information about where they might have also applied, events they've attended, interviews they've had, chats they've had with employers. Really all of that is in one place. And we can help you build that kind of longitudinal data set to tell whatever story you need. And you're welcome, Daniel. Leo, is there anything that you'd add right now as I'm digging in here?
Nothing that I would add, but would definitely jump back to the employer part that you were talking about previously.
Can do. Do you have something you want to add here?
No, I was just really interested to see what you're going to do with this information and how you're going to be able to help sort of employer teams get these to the top of students' minds.
Yeah, so this is a place where I might come here and edit the collection, and this is where I might say add this as one of the collections that I've created for students. So maybe if this is an employer that I know a lot of my alumni have expressed interest in, or where they've hired in the past, I can go ahead and save that, and then it's very easy for me to then email students about those collections. I'll actually just flip back over to the student perspective very, very briefly here and show what this can look like. If I'm coming to my career center as a student, I can actually just come and see these collections right here and start to explore who those companies are, which is a really fun way that we can help our careers teams become curators and really help you kind of suggest and pinpoint what's best for different populations. It's a great question, Phil. There's probably a couple different ways we can do that, and I'd be really curious to know like what the best way is. I know that that type of data can be brought into the system automatically as part of imports on different student cohorts, or you can also do it as a bulk upload, and then it can be merged into any report on first destination survey. So there's probably a couple different ways we can grab that data. But yes, again, the nice part about the system is that because everything can be cross reported, it's very, very simple to get in the right place. I don't know if we have automatic SOC class or automatic SOC codes on every employer we bring into the system or that creates an account in Handshake. So it's going to be, if I'm pausing, I want to loop back with our data team on that and make sure. Leo, do you have something to add there?
No.
Okay, that's actually a really good one. Full points to Phil for being the first person to like fully stump me on this this call. But yeah, I think figuring out if we already have that information embedded in the system is going to be really helpful. So follow up there. I'm hoping that we still have time right now for lots of questions and would love to just open it up. I'm happy to dig into any aspect of the outcomes reporting tools that we have and really hopefully help folks bring this to life further. Yeah, would love to know if there's anything that folks would like to see or questions that you'd like to probe Leo and I with right now.
I think something also just to add with that first destination survey as well, we do prompt students to add their home email address. So because we understand that some of the university email addresses expire after a certain time. So again, that would allow you to have continual access to those students once they graduate. Yeah,
that's a good point, Leo. I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, but yeah, when Handshake, when I say students, when I say alumni, really in Handshake, I'm talking about the same thing. We really don't think of there as being a difference in terms of this is a population that you want to serve, that you want to be able to empower. So we can help you actually transition students from that .ac.uk over to that .com email as they graduate, and they can just continue to use the system as alumni if you want them to. Yes, we can also, students can actually put in their own phone numbers, they can put in preferred emails, they can put in preferred names, pronouns, it's up to them to include other information in the system. But yeah, the goal is, again, how do we help create a system that passively gets you the data you need so that you don't have to be the one constantly chasing everybody. A couple questions in the chat, so I'm gonna dig into these. Daniel, you're conscious of over survey, makes total sense. You can change the number of reminder emails that are sent to students. You also actually control them down to the date if you want to. Of course, that reminder email only goes out to students who are either who have not responded yet or started a response but didn't finish it. You can have that be automated, Daniel, or you can have it be totally manual. It's up to you. I think a really good methodology here is to have an 8-week drip campaign that is spaced out so that students are never getting an email more than once a week. And then you combine that with ways of getting students to complete this survey that are more manual and physical. Let's have events, maybe partnering with student unions where you bring in student workers that have a tablet that has this survey available in kiosk mode. So students just type it right into the iPad, get it done. And then you can have maybe a QR code that brings them where they need to go in the app that's just outside the office, also possible in our system. There's a lot of ways to have multiple avenues to get at students. We know that's the best way to market these types of workflows, but yeah, as with everything in Handshake, it's very configurable, Daniel, and it's your tool. Megan, great question. Could this data interact with or complement the UK HESA grad outcomes data? Obviously, our tool doesn't replace HESA, and it doesn't replace that required workflow, but we actually do think that our tool should be the best way for you to visualize and use that data. So like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of, I would say, in the early stages of doing this with a few of our partners, but we're really excited about it. Our vision is that all of that HESA data that you have should be able to live in Handshake via an import that we can help you configure and get ready just with a CSV file. And then you'll actually be able to analyze that data and have it kind of interact with the system, be available in that analytics and kind of data reporting tool that I just showed you. Right now, of course, we don't have any ability to use data you might gather to inform the HESA survey. I know there's a lot of history there, but we think that really this should be the place where you can manage and maybe make more tangible the data you receive. I hope that answers your question. Great. Jack, in terms of GDPR, this is fantastic. And yes, students can always remove themselves from emails that they want and decide to remove their account, no longer have their data stored. We're fully GDPR compliant platform. I'll say this, it's always a fascinating and challenging balance to build a platform that creates tons of opportunities for access and creates a more seamless tool, but also respects student privacy and student choice. But that's exactly what we've done. So students do have the ability to opt out of emails. We do also have the ability to help our partners see which of your students have opted out of receiving your emails. So unfortunately, we might have to do a little bit more of a ground effort for those students. I hope that answers your question, Jack. And your other question, yes, we will be sharing a recording of the session. In fact, you can see recordings of all of the sessions that we have. And before we finish, Leo and I will do a quick FYI about future events and things like that. And yes, great question, Swan. Students, not only can they give consent to be contacted through the system, they must. Handshake is fully built around student choice. So while you can have a profile pre-created for one of your students, one of the really salient points to mention here is right here, it's up to me whether my profile is public or private. It defaults to private. I have to choose to make anything about myself public in this system. I can always see what employers would see. And it's entirely up to me. I can also at any time say, you know what, I'm not actively looking for a job at all. And again, I can always opt out of receiving those messages from my careers team. This is really core to how we've been able to create a network that allows students to receive one-to-one messages from employers, et cetera, is you base it on student choice so that they opt in. I'm just going to pause there. First of all, really appreciate all the questions. It's fantastic. And I'd love to know if there are any more that are coming through right now. I think we're almost out of time. So I wanted to make sure that I give a quick plug for the upcoming events and webinars that we have. Leo, do you want to share that on screen?
Yep. Here's what.
Brilliant.
Yep. Here's what I prepared earlier. So yeah, here's obviously you can register for all the events that are coming up, as well as see past recordings all on the site here.
Brilliant. So if you're interested in some of the other webinars that we have coming up, if you want to see more, those are all joinhandshake.co.uk/events. Looks like Hannah just threw that in the chat, which really appreciate. Yeah, and really appreciate also the attendance and questions today.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, as we mentioned, we're here to help access all the data flowing through your system, access early representative and actionable data around student and graduate outcomes, and help you schedule reports and connect into tools such as Power BI. So yeah, those are some of the 3 benefits that we're trying to help your teams with. And thank you very much for joining us on this session. And we hope to see you at the next one on Thursday or the week after. Lovely.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.